Alright, so this is somewhat of a surprise video, mostly resulting from I've seen this suggested every once in a while, but it's also something I thought about a long time ago just out of my own curiosity, and I never got around to looking into it. So today is a result of me looking into that question, which was who was stronger, the Chaos King in Marvel Comics, or was it the Marquis of Death from Marvel Comics, Doctor Doom's master? So today we're going to break down both characters, and I'm going to reveal who I personally think wins. So if you like versus battles like these, if you like comics, manga, power scaling, anything like that, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and to make sure to hit the like button as well. And with that being said, let's begin, and I hope you enjoy. Now, starting off with Chaos King, he is an avatar of Oblivion who came down to the multiverse to wreak havoc and bring back nothingness, which is where the multiverse sprang forth from in the first place. Now, in Nightmare's realm, he remarks that a crazed god like Hercules himself can unleash nearly unrivaled terror with their power. Chaos King then swoops in and asks, how does this type of power compare to something that is the true void? Chaos King predates creation itself. Like I said, he's an aspect of Oblivion, which is still insanely powerful. Being an avatar of something that existed before creation itself is still nothing to laugh at. Nightmare compares himself to Chaos King, and Nightmare is a conceptual entity, as you guys know, and Chaos King slaps him around pretty casually in his own realm. Nightmare says that he inhabits the darkness in which Chaos King represents. Chaos King then declares that abstracts like Nightmare need creation to exist, whereas someone as high up as Chaos King does not require belief nor creation. He is non-existence itself, and then he casually bops Nightmare. Hercules, in desperation to stop this newfound threat, returned to Earth to summon the heroes. He declares the Chaos King the most dangerous threat to the multiverse ever. This should include characters like Dormammu, Zom, and Sidorak. For reference, Dormammu has fought Eternity before, and the spell just to reach Eternity's embody realm could kill the reader. Narratively, Chaos King is above that. Amadeus Cho had power that a mere human mind could not withstand. Humans are capable of cosmic cube level powers, and people like Doctor Doom have used insane power before, so this energy is obviously insane. All this energy, the energy that will be used to fight Chaos King, now resides in Hercules. With this new power, or the power of creation, Hercules could solo the Godheads pretty easily. Just narratively, they scale to Zeus and Odin at their peak, and it doesn't matter because they don't scale to Chaos King, and it is very important for the Chaos King. Chaos King, of course, is revealed to be Mikabashi, the Japanese god of darkness. He is not a normal god and was non-existence prior to existence. The reason for what he's doing is simply he wants things to be how it started, which is nothing. Chaos King absorbed the power of Nightmare after defeating him. Nightmare's peak power could absorb the Ideaverse, which is the idea behind comic characters. So if you wanted to, you could argue he should be beyond this power at this point, but it's debatable. You could argue Hercules has fate resistance, as millions were fated to join Pluto in the afterlife, but Hercules stopped time to avoid that. Hera then states, after arriving, that nothingness is beyond even death itself. Of course, nothingness applies to Chaos King. Eternity declares non-existence, aka Chaos King, his opposite, therefore he cannot fight him. If existence fights non-existence, technically nothing happens. So technically CK should be above Eternity in my opinion, because we know for sure Eternity can't do anything to him. Death herself had to flee from Chaos King's fate. Death is such a powerful concept in the Marvel multiverse that when Beyonder erased death, he stated he wouldn't have the power to bring it back right then and would need time to regain such power. The divine realms, which should be beyond creation, are outside of the perception of Chaos King at the moment. However, these true gods in their true realms seem to be implying that if Chaos King got the drop on their location and found out where they were, he would bolo them if he pulled up. Hercules then one-shots a form of Zeus who one-shot Galactus. He then reveals he can even see into the divine realms and look at the godheads themselves and see what they're doing. This is important, of course, because they're trying to prevent Chaos King from discovering the godheads, that realm, and taking it over. Chaos King then absorbs all things and is confident he can absorb the divine realms and other abstract metaphysical realms as long as he discovers them. He basically says it's light work. Chaos King is so powerful that beings like gods and their ideas and feelings are absolutely nothing inside of him. He also explains how he is nowhere close to how strong he was before. This should be obviously referring to before creation. He's truly stepped into his role and defined his role as a true avatar of nothingness. The reason Chaos King's senses are dulling is he is quite literally becoming entropy. He feels nothing because he is nothing. Hercules then unlocks his God of God forms in order to face the raw, mighty power of Chaos King. This power I kind of referenced before. It embodies the power of creation. Hope, courage, all things like that exist to counter non-existence. This is the power that Hercules requires in order to face such a threat. Chaos King is so strong that even creation-powered Hercules was easily getting beat up and tossed around like a little kid. It was horrible. They actually couldn't straight up beat Chaos King. All they could do was put him outside of the multiverse, aka creation, in the place called Continuum, where Chaos King believes he has achieved nothingness again. So basically, they fooled him into going into somewhere outside of creation and were like, hey, if he's here and there's nothing there, he's going to think he achieved his goal, which is nothing. So they fooled him into taking something else over, basically. And the story ends with Hercules fixing everything with his power and restoring the Marvel multiverse. Now, on the other side of the coin, let's discuss another terrorist on a multiversal level, the Marquis of Death. Clyde Wincham Jr. was a young boy in a universe where superheroes were not a thing. They were simply fake. Metas and superpowers were fiction. Characters like Captain America were just comic books and not real to him. However, this all changed when it was revealed Clyde was the first mutant in this universe, his home universe, and that he is actually quite overpowered with his raw potential and abilities. His mom, in an enraged panic, thinking that Clyde's friend was the one doing all this reality warping, including bringing his dead dad back, beat Clyde because Clyde was the one with the power and accidentally put him in essentially a veggie state. This nullified his warping for a while until a panic later on caused him to re-emerge, and we see later the eventual emergence of Marquis of Death. We see early on that even a weaker version of the Marquis of Death was capable of casually commanding an army of villains passively. This includes the likes of the cosmic entity known as Galactus. They do reference the power of Galactus in this one, as they say he's beyond human comprehension and is not something humans should be subjected to in far as seeing him, witnessing him, and knowing what his power is and something like him exists. It's just such a high concept, and he is casually being commanded by this weaker version of the Marquis. The mom beating him accident is rather important to note because this obviously means he was heavily weakened. Thus, even the weakest Marquis of Death should be even above Galactus. After raging over his comic books being sold without his consent, Vegetable State Clyde was still commanding all of the villains and did so by dragging them across dimensions to his home dimension. They even clarify that a simple thought of this version of Clyde could humble and force Galactus to do whatever he bidded him to do. Off panel, it seems that the Marquis of Death casually folded and ripped apart a Watcher. Of course, this is the Marquis of Death after becoming a villain. Watchers are capable of being threats to cosmic beings like Galactus if they are, of course, allowed to use their power to fight. Only other L, of course, taken by Watchers is if Nick Fury pulls up with the Blicky. But besides that, they beat everybody else if they're allowed to fight. They are very powerful. And the fact that one of them just got mauled, like it looks like a massive leopard just tore it apart, is quite impressive. Marquis of Death has further built up his anticipation of his power with his arrival in the main universe, even from another dimension away. Marquis of Death's aura and future arrival caused the planet itself to react and panic, going into a planetary flux of sorts in terms of the ecosystem and the shifting of the planet. Literally, the spirit of the planet was reacting to a threat from a dimension away. He hadn't even arrived yet. We do eventually see them battle in a way, but even before so, Doctor Doom was not shy about how he viewed his former master. Doctor Doom credited Marquis of Death with giving him and teaching him everything. Quite high praise for someone like Doctor Doom. In an examination and autopsy of the murdered Watcher, it was determined that the power source that caused its death was indeed off the scales and limitless. This is crazy, of course, because Reed has measured power sources like the Ultimate Nullifier and Galactus, and he states this one's off the scales. Upon arrival, the prideful Doctor Doom knelt at the feet of Marquis of Death. Marquis said that Doom was a failure. Keep in mind all of the crazy things Doom has done over the years, including stealing the power of someone like Beyonder. All of that, Marquis thinks is trash. He then blasts Doom casually and drops him to his knees. Doom then wages war against Marquis of Death along with allies for 6 whole weeks. At least, that's what he thought. What really happened was Doom was forced to live out 5 years and 5 seconds from a casual mind hack by the Marquis of Death. Doctor Doom, for one of the few times in comics, was absolutely helpless in this situation. We see that it is pretty clear in character for Marquis of Death to use time travel as a means to fight or help him in long-term battles. He showed this by time hopping when disposing of the body of Doctor Doom. Marquis of Death has folded millions of versions of parallel worlds of 616 with similar rostered characters. We are made aware of this when Marquis forces Johnny Storm to witness his sister dying. This was made worse due to the fact that he saw the millions of versions of Sue Storm murdered by Marquis die simultaneously in the mind of Johnny. We then see that when Clyde had awakened, the process of becoming the Marquis took 1 billion years. During this span, it is stated Clyde mastered time and space. He did so in an effort to conquer all of reality as he waged war throughout the multiverse. He then also states in a pretty decent flex that he can erase a galaxy in a microsecond if he so chose to. We actually see in an extreme degree to which Marquis supposedly tore up the multiverse. Reed Richards in conversation implied that the likes of Marquis had gone through infinite dimensions in his billion-year war. This significantly amps his accomplishments and resume. Younger Clyde ends up recruited in the war to stop the Marquis of Death. Clyde was always a comic fan, so he was willing to help defeat his older self that turned into a supervillain. In the battle, both Clydes used cosmic beings and heroes as pawns in the war. This includes the likes of even Galactus and Thanos. These beings, to them, they referenced as like insects, and Marquis said his prior adventures in other dimensions had forced him to face beings that made gods like Odin look like insects. Included in the assault on Marquis was a battle with the Fantastic Four. This four was literally amped by 1 million times. Johnny was able to produce heat at Planck temp, which literally burns reality and physics itself. A weakened Marquis survived this fundamental massive blast. Of course, it damaged him heavily, but he was already weakened, and I doubt it would have really done much to him if he had been full powered. Plot is kind of what did Big Clyde in the end. So, Looking at both characters, I like this matchup because both are Marvel villains that didn't have long runs. It wasn't hard to go back and look at everything they've done and accomplished. But what makes them interesting is they almost both lost the plot. It was kind of dumb the way they both were ended. So we're going to give them a proper battle today. We're going to pit them against each other. Now, if the Chaos King and Marquis of Death crossed paths, who do I think would win? I do think Marquis of Death is quite powerful. He was able to. I didn't realize it, but going back through on my second or third read, he indeed possibly ran through infinite dimensions, tearing them up, destroying everybody. This makes him a lot stronger than I initially thought, and it made me hesitate. But at the end of the day, you got to understand, Chaos King tore up almost all of the multiverse in a very short amount of time and pretty casually. So while Marquis of Death by no means seemed to come across as struggling to do what he did, he took a lot longer to do it, and it took him time to master the process to do it. Chaos King just evolved so much faster. Marquis of Death I haven't seen him deal with anyone with absorption powers quite like Chaos King, who was absorbing gods like it was nothing, literally absorbing them. The only hope Marquis of Death would have is to hope he could maybe mind hacks him. But I don't know what he's going to do with that mind hacks, because he's not going to be able to really hurt the Chaos King. I don't believe he has enough AP to do solid damage against Chaos King. So even if he mind hacks him, it's not going to do much. He could try to BFR mind hacks him, I guess, like Amadeus Cho, but Marquis of Death never came across as a cowardly type like that, or on taking an easy way out. He seems prideful. So I see him trying to duke it out with powers against Chaos King, and I don't see it working for him. I think Chaos King demonstrated a little more consistently he was a higher level in terms of AP, and his absorption as well as his raw AP, I believe, gives him the advantage. He was faster in what he did, as they both had similar goals, and as a result, I believe Chaos King defeats Marquis of Death. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments down below. Keep it civil. Try to keep the dumb comments to yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed researching it anyways. It's been your favorite villain, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.